fighters receive your instruction in the dressing room. You're going to have a good, clean, professional fight. Touch them up. Let's go at the belt.
So we are set for our co-feature here between Michel Rivera and Hugo Roldan. Two guys who can be fantastic movers when they want to be. And Raul, pre-fight, we were looking at the dimensions of this ring. This isn't a small ring either, so you could see that potentially benefiting either of these guys.
Yeah, I think if anything, it'll benefit more Rivera. I think Roldan, he's the one that's going to have to make the fight, like I said at the beginning. He's got to get underneath Rivera's long jab and long combinations.
Round one underway. This one's scheduled for 10.
It's his second fight for Rivera with Rocky Gonzalez as his trainer, who also trains another 140-pound contender, Jermaine Ortiz. They got that win over Lipinets together, and now they hope to add another win against a very good 140-pounder. You know, Raul's pointing out that Roldan should attack, and he says he's going to. He doesn't always in fights, though. A lot of times he's a clever boxer, so it looks like he is attacking.
Sneaky left hand there from Roldan a moment ago. If you've watched a Hugo Roldan fight in the past, you've seen this kind of twitchy, hyperactive movement. He said that he's in particular been working on trying to calm himself down in the ring. So we'll see if some of that movement still remains. We are seeing some of it here in the early going.
Here we are. And we also saw him attack right from the get-go, so you know he is applying the pressure. And you see Rivera trying to use the whole ring, moving side to side, trying to establish that jab. He's got a really good jab. I mean, it's up to him how he wants to go with this fight. He could probably, just take him on the outside, try to outbox him. The outside left hand from Roldan. That one might have buzzed Michel Rivera, and he gets cracked again. We've already seen one upset here in our main broadcast.
Something's in the air tonight. But Rivera trying to take back the play from Roldan here by landing a nice combination. And ironically, Roldan gets accused of holding a lot. It's been Rivera here in round one that's been kind of doing the holding.
Men with very, very different approaches to boxing. We likened them in the early going because they both have good feet or good legs. They're athletes, but Roldan really doesn't do anything conventionally. Michel Rivera can be very pretty to watch in a very classical way.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That was very well put. And the question is which one of those styles is going to control. Rivera taking out another tough fighter. Let me tell you, his last 7 opponents, counting Roldan, have a record of 109-7-2. And those are all legit records. He has faced very good fighters. You referenced John Hernandez 7 fights ago, who knocked Rivera down, who is a top lightweight guy. He's fighting some tough guys.
Final moments here of round one. The biggest moment going to Hugo Roldan as we open things up here in our co-feature. Back live here in Detroit, our co-feature between Michel Rivera and Hugo Roldan underway as round two begins. Due to opening round for Hugo Roldan, it looked like he might have momentarily buzzed Michel Rivera with a sweeping left hand, and that kind of unconventional movement that Michel Rivera described as strange from Roldan is serving him well here.
Well, it is very strange. There's a lot of awkwardness to Roldan's style. If you see him, he kind of starts sometimes from the right-handed position, and when he's attacking, he almost kind of like squares up, and it's almost like he's switching to the left hand, but he's still squared up. So the way he attacks it like that, it causes a lot of awkwardness. It confuses Rivera.
Nearly caused a massive clash of heads there as well.
That too, that can happen. So
Well, and that happens a lot in Roldan fights.
And it did happen right there, apparently. In the midst of that chaos, the heads colliding. You saw the signal from referee Ansel Stewart.
You know, Roldan is throwing, he has a good right hand, and he is throwing it a lot here, and a couple of them are getting in. There's the hand speed that Rivera is capable of.
yeah, that's when he dominates. When he establishes that good solid jab, and then it's explosive with his combination punching, those 3 or 4 punches, and then just gets out of the way, circles him. That's what he needs to do, especially early on with Roldan, because Roldan he's attacking and he's full of energy.
Hey, good hand there from Rivera. That decided flush down the pipe, and back comes Roldan with a nice chopping shot of his own.
Call it what you want. Rivera, in the last minute, has created a sense of normalcy in this fight with the jab, the straight right hands, what he wants.
Rivera obviously will be warned for the push there. One that sent Roldan tumbling into the ropes. I think you're right, Al. I think that the more, to use your term, normal this fight looks, the better for Michel Rivera.
And the more this range, it helps Rivera.
And these are moments that Rivera can capitalize on, because even in Roldan's best fights, he can be prone to kind of taking a break and going for a walk, and Rivera can just fill those gaps.
Absolutely.
Rivera needs to keep the fight at mid and long range. He's not gonna. He really doesn't need to look for Roldan. Roldan, sooner or later, he's gonna come at him. He'll be able to find him.
Big right hand, nice counter shot there from Rivera. Nice bounce back round for Rivera. A good second round there for Michel Rivera, who in particular got his right hand involved in this fight for the first time, seemingly buzzing Roldan a couple of times in that round. As round 3 now begins. Here comes this version of Hugo Roldan.
But all of that missed, and Rivera needs to take advantage of that. Roldan opens up a lot. He opens up a lot. Look, all those misses by Roldan.
And look what happened there. A stiff jab, counter jab stopped it, Raul, which is just what you were talking about. Stopped the movement.
And also knocked Roldan off balance. When he's doing that kind of hyperactive movement and he's mid-stance, you could score a flash knockdown just with a jab.
Because he squares off.
Right.
He squares up. He's off balance. And, like I said, he doesn't have to find him. Sooner or later, Roldan is going to attack in that kind of way. So all he has to do is establish that jab, wait for him, bait him in. Look at that beautiful overhand right by Rivera that landed flush on Roldan. He smiled, but you know what that means, that he felt it. Rivera's very composed. And, he's trying to bait him in again, with the jab, touch him with the jab.
Now, Roldan took this fight on 3 weeks' notice, but he said he's in the gym, he's always ready, and they felt he would be fine to take it with that notice. And there he's reeling off some nice combinations, and there's that right hand. He has a very good right hand holder.
A bunch of those shots were blocked by Rivera. Maybe one landed.
I think the right hand got
miss.
Yeah, and this may be, guys, something that Rivera has to deal with periodically throughout this fight. If you can get through those chaotic moments and get back to normalcy, you can do stuff like that. A big right hand over the top.
Very good point. He really sat down on that big right hand. Yeah. I'm telling you, Roldan really felt that big shot.
That looked like the kind of right hands he landed way back when he was fighting Fernandez and knocked him out. And we haven't always seen that from Rivera, him setting down on those punches like that.
Joan Fernandez, a pretty good fighter.
Very good. Yes.
Oh, look at the man really sitting on his shots.
That's a version of Michel Rivera that people like to see because they feel like that's the guy that can be a top contender in any weight division.
Well, and going back to that era you were talking about when he scored that win over John Fernandez, he had to go through that showbox wood chipper. He had to beat legitimate fighters like Ladarius Miller, like Jose Romero, Joseph Adorno. He did not have it easy in his development period.
No, you're right. I think he's been tested in many ways, and that's why he's prepared for this kind of style. The way Roldan is attacked.
Another good round for Michel Rivera. A couple of guys that Rivera and Roldan have their eye on. Jack Catterall and Regis Prograis will create history when they meet in a blockbuster super lightweight clash at the top of the first ever boxing show to take place at Co-op Live in Manchester on Saturday, August 24th, live worldwide on DAZN.
There we see Rivera measuring with the jab. You saw he threw that right hand to the body, swooping right hand, and then he went over the top. And he sat on that shot. Roldan asked him for more. That means it was a good shot. He felt that. He felt that power.
Round 4 now underway.
Roldan coming in here off that very close split decision loss to Batir Jukambayov, a fight in which he probably took his foot off the gas pedal in the latter part, and that probably possibly cost him that decision. And you made the point, sometimes he gives rounds away, spaces out in rounds, and he can ill afford that here tonight.
Mentioned Michel Rivera likely having his eye on that Catterall Prograis fight. Well, he's been calling out everybody. In the past 4 months, he has called out Liam Perro, Ryan Garcia, Subriel Matias, Pitbull Cruz, Rolly Romero. Anyone you can think of, Rivera has been directly calling out, and that's a direct right hand to the face from Michel Rivera a moment ago.
I'll tell you what, Corey, if he goes out there and stops Roldan, something that's never been done before, that would be making a huge statement, and he earns the right to even call those guys out all over again.
I think the Rivera plan in this fight is to just hold when Roldan gets on the inside so he doesn't get beat up in there. There it is. Or get a headbutt and then fight at distance.
Get back on the outside, establish that jab. But, even right now on the inside, I saw him, bend his knees and dig with some good, hard body shots. He's got to find a way to stop all that momentum, all those movements that Roldan does. He's so awkward, you don't know where he's coming from at times. And like we said, the headbutts, the way Roldan attacks, you got to watch those heads.
Well, I think the frequency of the Rivera jab, Al, has been enough of a deterrent to keep a lot of those ambushes from Roldan at bay.
I agree, and the danger of those big right hands that Roldan was kind of walking into. And if he keeps Roldan at distance, and from Roldan's standpoint, he has to find a way to get on the inside where he can create some havoc.
Good body shots there from Rivera.
Solid body shots. One of the shots that we're talking about. That wears you out. That wears you down. Stuff like those legs and that speed, all those movements Roldan has.
Such an interesting sequence too, because Roldan got chest to chest with Rivera, didn't really do anything about it. So Rivera said, "Okay, how about I land a three-punch combination to the body instead?"
Smart fighter who took advantage of that moment.
Oh, huge right hand over the top of Rivera. Rising super middleweight star Diego Pacheco gets another main event slot, this time against Maciej Suleczki, the toughest test for the unbeaten Pacheco, Saturday, August 31st, in front of his hometown crowd in Los Angeles, right here on the Zone. As Larissa Shields is now warming up, final moments for her heavyweight title opportunity, hitting the mitts with John David Jackson. Larissa Shields trying to show off some heavyweight power here tonight in the main event. Round 5 underway as Michel Rivera has really taken control of this fight against Hugo Roldan.
Yeah, he's been really smart. He's been able to dictate the pace of the fight with his really good jab that he has. He controls the fight with the jab, with his combination punching, good body shots, and he's smart. Like Al said, he holds them on the inside to avoid headbutts and gets back on the outside with the jab. And that's exactly what he's doing right now. He's holding on to him. That there's no reason to get roughed up in there.
And part of the reason why that holding kind of may go unsanctioned is because Roldan's so herky-jerky and so rough about it that it almost looks like he's creating that, even though it's Rivera that's really totally initiating it. There's a right hand from Roldan. Well, that's a slip. Roldan wants that overhand right to get in. That's his best power. He's not a big power puncher, only 7 KOs, but the power he does have is mostly in that overhand right.
Rivera just walking Roldan back to the ropes. He said that in that win over Sergey Lipinets, he got comfortable with himself as a fighter. He really kind of described that win, which might be the best of his career, as he lands another beautiful right hand over the top.
Solid right hand. I think that really caught Roldan's attention. He's hurting, and he came back up the middle with an uppercut with that right hand.
Going back to that point, Raul, he kind of described it as sort of like a transformational moment in his career where everything really started to click.
Well, Lipinets is kind of like a gatekeeper. He's fought a lot of good fighters. He's got experience, and I could see it. That was a turning point in his career, and you could see it right now. He's using that experience that he got with Lipinets against a guy like Roldan that also attacks like Lipinets. Lipinets is there to, he attacks you coming forth, but Roldan attacks from different angles. He's so awkward, so I think that fight might have prepared him for this kind of stuff.
And you know what, Rivera, he is a veteran. He's been a pro since he was 19 years old, so it's intriguing that he's kind of reinventing himself a little bit at this point.
Rivera literally growing up on television and as a fighter. Said that in particular after the Frank Martin loss and the debacle that surrounded it, that he fell into a deep depression. But in particular with that win over Sergey Lipinets, just has an entirely different outlook on the sport. Close in on the final 10 seconds of round 5. Roldan back to the perimeter. As Rivera places another nice right hand to the body. All right, let's send it back over to Emily Austin with a special report.
Are we going? Where's the camera? Clarissa Shields had a chance to pop out a few times. If the fans noticed, she's wearing blue braids. Now, when asked why she chose the blue braids as opposed to her fiery, sexy red outfit she had going this week, she said she wanted to highlight the Flint water crisis, even noting it's been 10 years since the crisis began. As you all know, she's from Flint, Michigan, and thought that this was super important to highlight.
Thank you so much, Emily. Clarissa Shields bringing the blue braids back. She's worn those throughout her career, of course, to honor what's happened in her hometown of Flint, Michigan. And she has supplied transportation for thousands of Flint residents. If you buy a ticket, I'll get you here. And Michel Rivera is trying to get Hugo Rolda out of here in the 6th round.
He definitely is. He's sitting down on those shots as the rounds go. I see him planting his feet more on the ground, and he just landed this beautiful overhand right that Roldan took very well.
Now, if
He's
you're
moving now. You see Roldan is moving now.
If you're Hugo Roldan, what can you do to flip the script here in this fight? The problem for him is that from a distance, he's got a huge problem. So it remains that he has to somehow get on the inside, rough Rivera up, and land something of note. He's not a big puncher, though, so how much can he do in there? That's the question.
And we're also seeing Rivera develop the confidence to just sit down and land to the body when he gets to the inside. He's not just holding on and negating that pressure.
Good point.
You get back to the same question now. I think Roldan needs to tighten up on his defense and tighten up on his shots, the way he throws them, and pick up his punch out, because, like I said, he's only got 7 knockouts, I believe. So he's got to make up for it in some kind of way by being more active in the inside, just more punches and bunches, more activity. But he doesn't do it. He's there for a little bit, then he's back out because he feels Rivera's strength and power as the rounds go. He's feeling that power more.
Tricky head movement from Roldan was necessary there. A little bit of lapse. He lapsed concentration there from Roldan. Nearly had him knocked down by a right hand from Michel Rivera. Inside the final minute here of round 6.
This is only round 6, but I think it's safe to say this is a performance from Rivera to this point that is the kind of performance he and Rocky Gonzalez would have liked from him. But again, we're still fight to fight.
Rivera is now a contender in the 140-pound division, but he did say he would go back to 135 and can make 135 in a healthy manner if the opportunities presented themselves.
He's a big 140 already. Can you imagine at 135?
Seconds here of round 6. Michel Rivera in complete control right now in our co-feature. 7 begins. Our co-feature between Michel Rivera and Hugo Roldan. Our main event, Clarissa Shields and Vanessa Lepage-Joannis. Coming up next.
Neither of these fighters are strangers to going 10 rounds. Rivera's been 10 round 5 times, Roldan 10 times. His last 9 have gone that distance, so he knows the 10th round like the back of his hand. But unfortunately for him, the way this fight is going, he's going to have to do more than just go 10 rounds.
I was Roldan is using the whole ring, moving all over the place, not really throwing a lot of punches, and the ones that he does throw, he misses.
I think he's trying to lure Rivera in so he can land something.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's one of the identities that Roldan can take on, and I think, you're right, it's to try and catch Rivera by surprise, but he just got caught with a titanic right hand from Rivera.
You know what else we're seeing here tonight? Hugo Roldan can take a punch.
Yeah,
we knew that, but boy, we really know it.
Especially this last one, the way that he buckled his legs and his head just snapped back, and he's just right there.
Especially for a fighter who, let's be honest, guys, isn't always on balance.
Yes.
And he's getting hit with shots sometimes in mid-transition like that, and he is taking them. But for how much longer?
You can feel these punches having an impact. And the thing about Rivera, at his best, he's got power.
Big right hand by Rivera.
Yeah, right behind a lead uppercut a moment ago. A little bit of a hybrid kind of up jab. Snapped the head back of Hugo Roldan. Then the right hand came immediately behind it. As we're inside the final minute of round 7.
Raul and I have both announced a lot of Rivera fights. He didn't always set down on his punches, did he, Raul?
No, he didn't.
Tonight he's doing that.
He's showing that he's showing that in his training that they're adapting. He's sitting down more on the shots, and he's seeing that when you sit on your shots, it makes it count more. You do more damage. And he's doing it. Oh, he's back out there by crazy. Right, just out of nowhere.
Hugo Roldan punch.
Yeah, Hugo. There you go. Hugo Roldan. He was squared up. He squared up when he threw that right hand.
See the blood coming from the nose of Hugo Roldan.
Well, we've seen 240-pound contenders here tonight. One with a performance not up to his liking. This one, so far, with one he loves.
The crowd getting into it here in Detroit. We take a look back at some of the action from the previous round. Big shots landed by Michel Rivera in round 7.
Rivera, there's that big right hand that he really sat on that shot. Set it up with the jab, and after he threw that big right hand, he came right back and put that jab out there. There's that jab I'm talking about. There's the right hand over the top and back to the jab to try to set up another right hand. You see it from a different angle. Pinpoint accuracy there by that right hand. Came back again with a 1-2. I like that 1-2 jab. 1-2 jab.
Round 8 begins. Well, something I caught on the replay, that first right hand that landed, and maybe you can speak to the intricacies of. Something Roldan does is when he does stuff like that, when he launches into a flurry, he'll yell. He'll kind of have this primal yell. His mouth is open, and he got hit with a right hand as his jaw was completely open. That's dangerous.
That's very dangerous. When you got your mouth open like that, and they catch you right in the jaw, automatic. I mean, they could break your jaw, Corey. I'm surprised that his jaw ain't broken or is hurt, because I'm telling you, those right hands that Rivera is throwing, they're pretty solid. They're coming with everything. I think anybody else would have been down from those shots. But again, Roldan showing that he's a tough Argentinian fighters are known to be tough. They have known to have a good chin. and he's taking those shots.
There's a reason that bite down on your mouthpiece is a phrase that everyone understands, whether they watch boxing on DAZN or not.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? We talked about the fight kind of settling down for Rivera. It did that about round 3. And once it did do that, once Roldan was not able to create those bull rushes the way he wanted to, it became a fight that was manageable for Rivera.
Well, credit to Rivera for not falling prey to some of that chaos that Roldan is trying to create here. Rivera has stayed composed and stayed in position to land power shots regardless of what's going on.
Yeah, really good point.
Back to the body on it. Let's go.
This is from Rivera a moment ago. Sorry,
I'm sorry. Good time for boxers from the Dominican Republic. In fact, one of the champions at this weight class is Alberto Puello from that country, and that is, Rivera would like to continue on with that.
Puello, of course, elevated to full champion after Haney relinquished the belt and was named champion in recess.
After that win over Russell, that was an impressive win for Puello, who had the championship before, lost it due to getting bad substances. Oh, nice right by Roldan. That might have been his best punch in quite a while.
And he continues to be wild. He has a wild swinger the way he comes and attacks. But you could easily be misled by a style like that, like, a guy that's not experienced, like Rivera, and doesn't know how, he's got a really good jab and he's improving. A guy like Roldan that attacks from different angles and you don't know where he's coming from, can be him.
Here's where kind of a right elbow from Rivera landed. He was trying to throw the right hand and his elbow landed instead. Roldan still kept on coming. That didn't slow him down either, so he can take a punch even when it's from an elbow.
Two to go here in our co-feature between Michel Rivera and Hugo Roldan. As Roldan, you'd have to think, is going to need something big in these final rounds if he wants to pull out the victory. He did land something big in the 8th round, but it looked like Rivera was able to stabilize himself and kind of calm the fight down pretty quickly.
And again, the fact that Roldan is not by nature a one-punch knockout artist or a knockout artist, period, means he's going to, the odds are not in his favor to do that. We'll see.
Counter shot there from Roldan.
It landed.
It's found a hole for that right hand a little. Yeah.
And Rivera kind of loading up with that right hand as he was creeping forward, and Roldan caught him at the perfect time.
Well, this is definitely a posture that won't win Roldan this fight. If he's going to box like this, unless he can lure Rivera and land something, really huge.
I mean, obviously that's not going to win, Roldan the fight or win rounds. So, I mean, he's going into survival mode and saying, look, I don't want to get knocked out. I'm just going to go the distance. He's never been
No, he never has. And if this fight went to the 10th fight in a row that we got 10 rounds from him. So
Nice short right hand that connected from Rivera a moment ago. He just missed with an uppercut on the inside. Perhaps in response response to the boos that very briefly started here at the Little Caesars Arena. No doubt they're getting antsy for our main event. Vast majority of the crowd, of course, here to see Claressa Shields. Michel Rivera, again, playing to a bigger audience, hoping to insert himself into the broader conversation at 140 pounds.
And this performance thus far has been a very solid one from him. And we've acknowledged he's facing an unorthodox, awkward fighter, but it's been a very solid performance that has showcased his abilities.
About 20 seconds here of round 9. Roldan again tries another one of those quick ambush attacks. Nothing landing there. And as the seconds tick away, we will enter the 10th and final round. Show of respect from both Michel Rivera and Hugo Roldan as we enter the 10th and the final round. Salida Promotions' latest signees, Rivera, to pick up a big win here tonight. Set the table for our main event.
There's some tape that's loose on the left glove of Rivera, and they may see that and stop the action in a moment or two.
His left hook connected there from Rivera with the dangling tape included.
You know, that's a part of his game that sometimes is underused by Rivera. He has a very good left hook, and Rocky Gonzalez wants him to use it more.
Pretty good uppercut too with his left hand. He landed it also good too. Changed it up with an uppercut. Sent with the right hook and the jab.
Well, I think clearly tonight, guys, the game plan has been when Roldan gets to the inside, for the most part, wrap him up and forget about that. I think generally speaking, landing a lot of left hooks necessitates proximity, and he hasn't wanted to operate there at all.
That's a very good point, and so it hasn't been as available as they would probably have wanted it, but he desperately need it.
Tape on the glove of Michel Rivera still does. By Rivera. A little entanglement there. You saw the glove of Roldan touch the canvas, not a knockdown, and I think rightfully so.
In the midst of all that, there were some very nice right hands by Rivera.
Michel Rivera saving the best for last. In the closing minute of this contest, and he may have an opportunity to end this fight.
He's going to take that step back again.
he stands trying to throw a left. There it is, and he would get nailed with that right hand by Rivera. And we've seen right hands of many varieties from Rivera tonight. Lead rights, counters, uppercuts, and as you point out, Corey, he kind of saved the best power punch for last.
Michel Rivera, the promotional debut, I'm sure that he was hoping for here tonight. It's a beautiful knockdown in that 10th and final round. Steve looks towards big fights in the 140-pound division. Just announced, pound for pound, a superstar Canelo Alvarez will put his unified WBC, WBA, and WBO super middleweight titles on the line against the WBA's #1 ranked mandatory contender, Edgar Berlanga. It's Mexican Independence Day here on the Zone, Saturday, September 14th, live from T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. We await the scorecards. Hugo Rolda at least made it seem like he thought he was deserving of the decision. He was celebrating like he won this fight.
Well, that would be shocking. But he's happy with the distance, that's for sure.
It looks like the scorecards are in the ring. We are ready to make this one official. Let's send it back up to Pete Trevino.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put a big round of applause together for both of the fighters in the ring. After 10 rounds of super lightweight action, we go to the judges' scorecards. Judge DeYoung scores this matchup 90-90 for Rivera. Judge Gross scores the matchup 95-94 for Roldan. And Judge Santino scores the matchup 98-91 for your winner by split decision, Michel Rivera.
So Michel Rivera picks up the decision.